Good morning and welcome. I was about to say back. Welcome back to the Gus Logue and John Shipley show, essentially. Welcome to episode 1 of the Duval 22 podcast. My name is Gus Logue. I'll be your host at 2 podcast episodes each week. One to recap each game and one to preview each game. So here to join me as my very first guest, my former longtime co-host on former podcasts is John Shipley of Jaguars on SI. We're here to break down the Jaguars' Week 1 win over the Carolina Panthers and just talk a little bit of ball, catch up a little bit. We'll see where it goes. But John, thank you for joining me today.
I'm doing good, man. Former co-host, former friend, former cohort. Yeah, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. I'm doing good, man. It's very poetic that we're podcasting on the day after the first ever bulky ball player was sent to his kick returning asylum. He definitely like before we get into anything, like that trade's terrible for Tank Bigsby, right?
The trade is terrible for Tank Bigsby? I mean, just in terms of like his new environment, I guess it is. I mean, he only had 4 carries on Sunday. I don't think that was really going to change even if he's stuck on the Jags.
He's going to be only a kick returner. That's at least what it seems like.
No, I agree with that, but at the same time, he's got a chance to win a ring. I think it's a good trade if I don't know. I guess that is. It kind of depends on each person. Would you rather win a Super Bowl and not have a lot of playing time, or are you like Carson Wentz and you have to be on the field and have to be part of the Super Bowl?
Did you see his we tweet after the game?
Yeah, Tanks.
What did
he say?
I want to see your live reaction. That'll answer your question, I think.
Well, one of my questions, definitely, as I pull up Tank Bigsby's tweets, one of my questions for you today, the format I think I'm going to go with is just doing 5 questions for each guest that I bring on. So I've got 5 questions for you today, John. One of the questions, I was going to save it for a little later, but we might as well dive right into it, was what do you think the backfield rotation looks like in Jacksonville moving forward with Bigsby out of the rotation? I guess, first of all, I think I know the answer to this, but were you surprised whatsoever by the fact that Bigsby was traded? And then how, I guess really the question is how quickly do you think that Bashal Tootin can get into more of the rotation? Because as of now, it's he's a rotational back. LaQuint Allen is the pass protector on long down and distances, and then the primary back is Travis Etienne.
Yeah, so I think I want you to keep looking for it. I think when
I just found it, so let me interrupt you. It's where the F is Tank Bigsby. For just the most random fan. I guess he has 1.5 thousand followers, but wow, that's
I'm pretty sure
good.
that was several hours before the trade. So that answers your question, I think.
Man.
Right? Yeah.
Pretty much. So yeah, I don't think certainly you and I think much of the Jaguars' local media wasn't surprised by the trade happening. They were kind of unofficially had him on the block for a little bit just because the backfield was so crowded, right? But so I don't even think we need to focus on the Tank Bigsby of it all. I'm more so interested in what you think this means for the players that do remain in the running back unit in Jacksonville.
I saw legend Pete Prisco say that they see Bashal Tootin in the Bucky Irving role. I think he has it wrong, but I think to use a Tampa Bay comparison, I think right now Travis Etienne is Bucky Irving. He's going to be the lead guy, clearly. I don't know if you want to call it bell cow because, you saw 4 running backs get snaps on Sunday. You normally don't see a team with a bell cow get 4 running backs get snaps. Even though Etienne, I think, dominated the running back touches. It was I think 19-9 or something like that. I think that, it's clear that they still want to use several running backs. So I think Etienne is the Bucky Irving. I think Bashal Tootin right now is the Rashad White. In terms of, he will get work. He's the clear number 2 running back, but he's also, I think right now, is it necessary to kind of turn to him and kind of give him even half a workload? I don't think so. I don't think, they'll obviously face tougher defenses than the Carolina Panthers. And I'll be honest, before I saw the Panthers flip card, I could name like 4 of their defenders. And that's like a defense.
Yeah.
Like they poured money into that defense. Like yeah,
They tried.
they certainly tried. Very vindicating game for me and you, by the way. Longtime Bryce Young haters.
Oh, absolutely. No, I do remember when we used to podcast together. It was probably it might have been one of our last podcasts we actually did together as true co-hosts. And like my hot take for that podcast was that like Bryce Young is not an NFL quarterback, and really solely because like not even anything that he like did on the field, but just because I saw the guy standing on his tippy toes in the pocket, and I was like, all right, I'm out, I'm all the way out. And then I assume you saw it, but did you see on Sunday's game in Week 1 when he was like watching the scoreboard during
He just like me for real.
I don't even know what to call it. Yeah, he was like watching like a mini game on the jumbotron during like a TV timeout, and it was just just not a lot of.
He had like 3 of the worst throws I've ever seen in a game, like all within like a little 4-quarter period. That interception to Eric Murray, that ball was intercepted like 3 seconds before he even threw the ball. Like Eric Murray read that so quickly, and it was such a do not throw the ball that he almost ran through the receiver, like breaking on it because he threw it so late. Right. What was it? That pass to Andrew Wingard that wasn't called, because of the penalty.
Oh yeah.
I got no words to that one. And then the 4th down throw out of bounds. It looked really bad, like watching it live, because I'm like, holy shit, he just threw a 4th down pass out of bounds. And then you watch John 22, and he has a guy coming wide open, like right in front of him. He was brutal. But like back to the running backs, I do think like it's pretty clear that all will play a role. I think if you want to put it like at percentages, I think like Travis Etienne will get 70% of the work. I think right now Bashaw Tuden will get like, let me do my math, 20. There we go. And like LaQuint Allen will get like 10. And like so I put out there like in my like thoughts on the Bigsby move. I was like, I think Tuden is now the number 2 running back, but he might not even get the second most snaps, if that makes sense. Like I think he's the number 2 guy in terms of if they want to do most concepts, if they want to run the ball. He's the next guy up after Etienne. But LaQuint Allen is clearly going to play a lot of 3rd downs. Like he was the best pass protector all throughout training camp. They showed that they trusted him in Week 1. I mean, he was out there on the first drive, on a key 3rd down. I posted a clip of him on a blitz pickup on J.C. Horn on the nice pass to De'Ami Brown to set up that end-to-half field goal. Liam Cohen has like gone out of his way to mention that play like 2 or 3 times. So he's obviously earned a role. But no, I do think it's the Etienne show until it isn't. Because I do think they really like Tuden, but I think Etienne has to give them a reason for them to kind of take work away from him. And right now, there is no he had one of the best games of his career. And again, they're going to face much tougher defenses. I think the Panthers just, even on paper, I thought the Panthers sucked heading into this game. It was odd the amount of optimism around a team that went 5-12 last year just because their quarterback looked a little spunky against like Joe Barry. And no, that was actually 2 years ago. So, you know what I mean? He went from being the worst quarterback in the NFL to the 20th best quarterback over like a 5-week span. It got people very excited. So they'll obviously play much better teams. So maybe if you see Etienne start going back to kind of his inefficient ways, I mean, we've seen him with high volume before and hasn't always been the most efficient guy with that. He has had to kind of rely on those big explosives. I do think there's something to Tuden might be the more natural zone runner. He just seems like he has more patience. He's better at finding cutback lanes, whereas Etienne, it's almost odd. Etienne, like the way that he's built, he's a scat back and a space back, really, in theory, but he's kind of good on these gap runs and these pulling concepts because you just need to give him one specific path and landing spot to hit, and as opposed to when a zone runner, it looks like he's like it's like a monkey hitting the cymbals, like run the ball. So I do think there's a path to Tuden getting playing time. I don't see him supplanting Etienne right now, but down the road potentially. But no, this move always made sense because when you look at now, they have 3 running backs who can be out there for really any situation. Etienne can catch the ball in the backfield. Tuden can catch. LaQuint Allen can catch. LaQuint Allen's the better pass protector, but I think Etienne, while not good there, you can at least like have him on the field on some 3rd downs in terms of you're not tipping away your hand and Tuden, I think, has come a long way in protection just over the course of the preseason and stuff. So that's what Liam Cohen wanted. He wanted 3 running backs who he can kind of deploy at any time and not to change anything. And that's why Tank didn't fit. Like Tank, for as much as I know for a fact the staff really liked and respected his game as a rusher and how he just kind of ran through people's faces on every play. You just can't have him on the field and hope to be a versatile offense that can run any concept, any play, no matter who you have on the field. Just because he's, like this isn't hyperbolic. He's probably the worst passing down back in the NFL.
Yeah, which is crazy because it's like it'd be one thing if he was just the worst pass blocker or the worst pass catcher. That was a lot of words, but he's like the worst at both.
And he's not even when just bad them. Where he like doesn't offer you. Like he's legitimately like a negative value to have on the field and passing down.
Yeah, he's a liability, and you just can't have that because, as you're saying, like it just creates kind of like tendencies for opposing defenses to be able to hone in on. I almost feel like that's like the best thing going for Tuten is that like I agree with everything you said about how he's like a little bit better at zone. He already has a little bit better vision and kind of just like feel and pace at the position than ETN. But I also think that like the main advantage for him over ETN is just that he's like can be deployed all over the field on a variety of concepts on early downs, late downs, early in the game, late in the game, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah. But I certainly agree with everything that you said already in terms of like their usage going forward. Like if you do have to compare it to the Bucs backfield last year, then obviously Travis Etienne is in the role that Bucky Irving was in late last year. And I think that like really if that's going to change, then it doesn't have much to do with like Tuten like developing behind the scenes or like ripping off a few good games. I think it almost entirely just has to do with Travis Etienne's health because he averages like a full yard less in terms of yards per carry in terms of like the last 2 months of the season as opposed to the first 2 months of the season. He's like broken down in each of the past 2 or 3 years as the season's progressed. And so it's certainly a great sign from him to have such a good game in week 1, even considering the strength of the opponent. But he's got to stay healthy. And if he does stay healthy, I think he'll set career highs against the board.
I forgot to call Quinn Allen Sean Tucker. You can
John, there you go. That makes sense, actually. No, I'm glad you added that. All right, John. So my original first question for you is like pretty vague, pretty general. Just what is like the biggest takeaway that you had from the first game from week 1, Liam Cohen's first game, Grant Udinski, Anthony Campanile, James Gladstone, etc. So like what's your biggest takeaway from the game? Or like a different way to phrase it would be like what was the biggest storyline from the game? Like if you could only focus on one angle from that game, what would it be?
The angle has to be that the new additions, and not just the players, but the schemers on both sides have really raised the floor. Like Liam was dialing stuff up, man. Like you know, I saw you posting clips from the All-22. Like guys are running wide open. I mean, there was nobody within 8 yards of Hunter Long, on his touchdown. They did really good play action stuff. There was a stat from NFL Pro where they averaged like 4.2 yards per play when they had motion last year, and they averaged like 6.5 yards per play with motion on Sunday against the Panthers. So that's like two more yards per play simply based on the play caller has the juice. And I've long felt that the bigger question with Liam is how he'll be as a head coach, because I've been that confident in him as a play caller. Just not just what we saw against Tampa, but things I've heard in the offseason from other people around the league. Like there's a lot of people in the NFL who watched Liam's offense with the Buccaneers last year. Like, hey, this guy's got something. So I think that was my biggest takeaway, was that Liam really is a difference maker in terms of scheming things up. I mean, in and around the Brian Thomas Jr., there was absolutely nobody, nobody within, several yards of being able to even touch him. I thought the passing concepts were really sound. I thought they had a clear and concise plan for each guy, and they also had the ability to where they could make things, look the same while also looking different. And they had the ability to deploy guys at different spots, which that was always my biggest, gripe. Yeah, there we go.
Gripe.
With the Doug Peterson offense, it was just so static. Like, Calvin Ridley's going to be on the outside. Zay Jones will be at Z receiver. Christian Kirk will be in the slot. Evan Ingram will more or less be off the ball and, as a heavy slaughter, a guy who's going to motion around the offense. Whereas Liam, I think you saw more versatility. I think you saw more guys playing different roles. And then defensively, I think the scheme, it will be tested more. Like this week, for example, I know that Bengals offense sucked, but, they're going from a literal definition of a peewee quarterback to a quarterback who, well, I don't think he's the best thing since sliced bread, like so many, people do. He's still a pretty good, freaking quarterback. He's going to be a much better test than Bryce Young was, but I think that the defense offered, like, it felt like the most, I guess you would say, I don't know if versatile is the right word just because I literally just used it, but the most, I don't know, like, disguisey Jaguars defense that we've seen.
You could say
Yeah, multiple.
is
Yeah,
good
because like Mike
word.
Caldwell would throw a lot of stuff out, but it seemed like the more kind of extreme that he got with looks, the less kind of competent the defense looked. Like he tried, but he just couldn't put it together. And Campanelli is throwing some crazy. Like Colin Saunders was like running the pole on cover 2 on one play. You saw the defensive backs made a big difference in the run game just simply because of the different blitzes and stuff. Like off the top of my head, Jarian Jones, Jordan Lewis, Andrew Wingard, and Eric Murray all made plays in the running game. Jordan Lewis, made that big plays of blitzer. You saw them use them different ways. That was my big takeaway. And then just, I really think, they said they wanted to raise the floor in free agency. Their free agent additions across the board really kind of did that. Robert Hainsey had a really good game, I thought. Patrick McCary had a good game, which surprised me. He was a question mark for me coming into the game. He was hurt for the first half of training camp, the second half of training camp. I thought Chuma Edoga looked like the better guard. Like, I think if you were going based on simple merit in play, Chuma Edoga should have been the week 1 starter, but they paid McCary, so like he kind of have to play him. I thought he had a really good game. I think that the other additions. I mean, you saw Johnny Munt, Hunter Long kind of perform those backup tight end duties, kind of to a T. Tight end position had a really good day. Eric Murray had a much better game than I think even my highest expectations for him in a game would have been this year. Jordan Lewis, I think Jordan Lewis is probably the best player on the defense. Like with all recognition to Fourier's big day and Josh Hines Allen getting a ton of pressures, which for some reason fans have now grown to hate. Jordan Lewis, he had 3 pass breakups. He had a big quarterback hit on Bryce Young that helped avoid a wide open touchdown. He had a fumble recovery. Like, he was freaking all over the place, dude. So that was my biggest impression. The new guys, whether it was coaches, whether it was players, really raised the floor. Like, this was a game I never felt like the Jaguars were in danger of losing, because there was some adversity at a couple points, but it literally, to me, never felt like the Jaguars had this game out of control. And you look at the probability charts, and it looks like the state of Oklahoma. It's like, literally, Jags probably going to win, and it hits like halfway through the second quarter, and it just dips down for like the rest of the game, like in like the 80s and the 90s.
Yeah. I really got nothing to add. I think that's you perfectly sum it up, where it's I think a lot of people recognize that the free agency class in 2025, almost all of them made their mark. Obviously there was a lot of big days from the Eric Murrays and Jordan Lewis's, and even De'Ami Brown, I think, had a really good game. He had the critical block on the ETN 71-yarder. But then he also had 52 receiving yards on just 3 catches, and so I feel like he's very fitting that role very well of being the team's wide receiver 3, but also at the same time an every down player who's important in both phases of the game. Hunter Long had the touchdown. You said it was a good game for the tight end unit as a whole. But then also again, everyone knows that the Jaguars have new head coaches, and that theoretically they would put players in a better position to succeed than the former regime did, and we saw that come to fruition already. And so all of the new guys definitely deserve their flowers. To me, that was the biggest kind of storyline or takeaway from the game. Right below that, though, I think the biggest thing is that the Jaguars won by 16 points, even though Brian Thomas, Travis Hunter, and Trevor Lawrence were okay, if not a little bit worse. The passing game
wasn't in my opinion, good. And I don't know how much of it you want to say, because I do think maybe part of it is it's the passing game is such a rhythm thing, and I don't know. You kind of have to like just feel it on game day. Once it's going, like anything that stops the momentum kind of throws it off the tracks. I wonder how much like truly the delay and then play about 8 minutes and then go into halftime for another delay. Like it just seemed like Trevor was really cold coming out of it. I thought the passing game started pretty impressive. Brendan Strange had that big, first drive. Like guys were getting schemed open. But I agree with you. They were able to effortlessly win a game despite the passing offense just not looking that good. It to me was literally, if Trevor had connected with Brian Thomas on 2 or 3 of those 5 misses between the two of them, like people probably look at that game a lot differently from him. But I mean, you can't look at it differently because it was what it was. That to me is like, I did my good and not so good thing I do every week where I look at the good and the bad, etc. And the bad was obviously the penalties. That's been a problem since training camp, through preseason. Surprised Liam Cohen hasn't gotten like red in the face talking about it as much as he mentioned it. And then just the BTJ Trevor connection. It legitimately was looking really good last year before Trevor got hurt. And then it just has not looked right all training camp, all preseason. It hasn't looked right, and I'm not sure if it's time to hit panic button on that yet. But a 1-catch, 11-yard day on 7 targets is pretty freaking crazy for literally the guy who the passing game is supposed to run through.
Yeah, definitely. I think like Travis Hunter having a so-so game is certainly nothing to panic about.
They literally asked him to do nothing.
First NFL game. Yeah, it's his first NFL game. Like he's going to get like worked in further and further in terms of his usage on both sides of the ball. I would like to see him not being used as Wan'Dale Robinson on offense. Like maybe expand his route tree a little bit. But like again, it's week 1, so like those things can come. But it's certainly like the Trevor Lawrence to Brian Thomas connection is something to keep an eye on because like the two of them, Lawrence went 1 for 7 targeting Thomas, and then he was 18 for 24 otherwise. And so like. Yeah, like when your two best players are like not on the same page, that's not ideal. And like it was kind of on both of them. Like on the maybe not the very first play of the game, but it was like the third play of the game. I think it might have been
that screen.
I don't know. It was no, not the screen. There was a dropped screen by Brian Thomas, but I'm talking about the first play of the drive for the Jags offense when Lawrence like just didn't hit Travis Hunter underneath for an easy 4 yards, and he said went to the left sideline to go to Brian Thomas in like single coverage. Like I don't necessarily mind turning down the short completion to try to like go to the number 1 receiver in an ISO situation, but like at least deliver a good ball, Like it was just like too far out in front of him. Like it would have been better as like placed as a back shoulder throw, and it was just like not. It was like technically catchable because it was like in his like radius, but like it was just not a good throw. And then there was like the one that Trevor missed high. I think that one was actually more on Brian Thomas because Cohen said either after the game or on Monday that it was a corner route, but Thomas definitely like flattened his route and just went straight to the sideline. And so I think Lawrence was throwing it to where he like thought he was going to be, and then he wasn't there. There was another one where like Lawrence was trying to like hit Thomas over the middle on like a quick in on kind of like a high-low concept with Travis Hunter. Yeah, like it was not the worst miss in the world because it was one of those throws like where you put it where only the receiver can get it because there was a Panthers defender in zone coverage basically sitting right in front of Brian Thomas. But at the same time, like a miss is still a miss. They definitely need to get their rapport down to a certain extent, and I think part of it is what you were saying about like Trevor not being in rhythm because of the various delays. I certainly think that like there's a huge difference in the way that Trevor plays, whether he's like in rhythm or not in rhythm, which you could certainly say about most, if not all quarterbacks. But I feel like that's especially a case with Trevor. And then for Brian, I think that like the mediocre practices kind of catch up to him and stuff like this with like this kind of sloppy route running and stuff, where if he's really going 100% and like being a beast in practices, and that should carry over a lot easier in games. And so hopefully it'll just take, I don't know, another quarter for them to get on the same page rather than like a month of the season. But we'll see. That's definitely something
that first pass attempt to Brian down the left sideline. I mean, guys, you were at training camp. You can tell me if I'm wrong. That looked like literally every training camp target to Brian Thomas, right? Like that looked like it literally looked like every single like rep between the two of them went. So Corner's ambitious. We'll see.
I'm just saying, hopefully,
Sure.
that would be a good outcome to have.
Sure.
My next question for you, John, is to name an individual performance on Sunday that you were impressed by, and to name one that you were a little bit underwhelmed by and like left you wanting more. You can skip the impressive one if you want, since I feel like we listed off about 8 different guys that had good games already. But was there a performance that like you were a little bit underwhelmed?
I mean,
by on
I'll go.
Sunday?
I was impressed by Anton Harrison. I mean, the Panthers' defensive ends suck, but he legitimately looked like him and Walker Little both, in my opinion, like looked better as run blockers than they have in a while. Right? Like I thought they got more movement and more
Right.
displacement than either one of them has gotten in some time, and I don't know why. Like obviously it's a new scheme, but I don't think a new scheme instantly makes you like a better drive blocker or anything like that. But it seems like, any message sent to Anton over the offseason, it was, at least received for week 1. He'll have a, tougher matchup by far in week 2. But I thought Anton stood out to me. As for unimpressed, I'll go with give me
Mr. 70,
who's 70?
Cam Little.
Yeah, he didn't have it. Those I gave my special teams game ball to Logan Cook. Those 2 penalties.
Yeah, that's why I said it.
I'll go with actually. I had it before you interrupted me. I'm just kidding. I'd say it's still Devin Lloyd. I'm sorry. Still, I know he got really high graded by PFF, but I just don't see much playmaking from him, and he still looks really slow to me. Maybe I'm being harsh, but he looks like he has no range at all, and I legitimately think scrambling quarterbacks are going to be a problem for the Jaguars all year, because for as good of a game as he had, he was never a rangy player to begin with, and he has certainly slowed down over the last couple of seasons. And then Devin Lloyd, he came into the NFL as supposed to be this, uber athlete who could fly all over the field, and he's put on weight to be like a thumping linebacker, and I feel like he's lost all his speed completely. I can't think of any real positives Devin Lloyd made. I mean, he only played 33% of snaps too, which I think is notable. They rotated him out for Ventrell Miller on several drives. I think Ventrell's probably the better player. And then 2, they went with a lot of one linebacker stuff and put Darnell Savage played 44% of the snaps or something crazy like that.
Yeah.
Like that to me is literally them saying like, no, you're good. We'll figure it out. You can just stay right here, grab a water. You're good. I've never understood his PFF grades. I really didn't understand this one.
No, that's what I was gonna say. Like I put it out a tweet after the game ended of like the top
I
5
knew he'd be on
Jaguars in PFF grade. Dude, Devin Lloyd was, I don't know, he was in the top 5. I forget
think he was
exactly
above
where
Josh.
he was. And I think you might be right. And like every comment that I got was like, why is Devin Lloyd so high? I didn't even notice Devin Lloyd that game. Who's Devin Lloyd's dad? Does he own PFF? Like, what is Devin Lloyd paying PFF for these grades? And like I made sure to keep an eye on him in all 22 because of those questions. And like I got no answers.
Yeah,
Like
am I being
what
harsh?
they're
Did he do
targeting.
anything?
No, and like I will say, like I don't think he necessarily had like a bad game or any bad reps. There actually was, to back up your point about scrambling quarterbacks. There was a Bryce Young scramble around the right side. I think it was in the
Yeah, it was.
first
I know
quarter.
exactly
It might
what
have
play
been
you're
the
talking
second. Yeah, and Devin Lloyd was like he was trying to read the quarterback size more than anything, but he just like got stuck in mud basically and like allowed the first down. And it was definitely on him. And then like I think Devin Lloyd was probably charted with like 1 run stop just because he like filled a gap and like caused like a run to only go for 2 yards instead of further than that. But like I don't know, like Ventrell could do the same thing. Like I don't really disagree with anything.
There
you're
has
saying.
never been a player who looked more like an impending free agent. And like in my opinion, I will bet my mortgage right now that he's not on that roster next year.
Yeah, I think if any team like picked up the phone towards the NFL trade deadline and said, "Hey, James Gladstone, we need some linebacker depth," then like that's going to be the fastest trade done of all time. speaking of which, I should have asked you this earlier, but like my sense for the running back position is that Travis Etienne will get a ton of touches this year, and then they'll be prepared to just let him walk in free agency and have it be like the Tootin Allen show going forward in 2026 and beyond. Is that kind of the same thing you're thinking?
I think that they're gonna have no issue trying to run Etienne into the ground this year. Like they're not going to be thinking like about next year when it comes down. But I don't know. They've done things that surprise me. So maybe like part of me says they wouldn't pay him because they just drafted 2 running backs and they were definitely going to draft Ashton Genty at number 5 if they didn't make the Travis Hunter trade. But yeah, that's probably about where I feel. And in terms of just for the week 1 overreactions to the number 5 pick, Travis Hunter was used like Kadarius Toney for a game. Mason Graham had 1 pressure in like 28 snaps. And Ashton Genty looked like Latavius Murray. So maybe the answer at number 5 was nobody. I'm just kidding. They'll be fine.
Yeah. And also,
Will Campbell got
he was
picked
before number 5, but yeah, he had like a 3-play sequence. It was like allowed like a strip sack, and then had a penalty, and then whiffed on a block that like essentially cost the Patriots the game. Certainly didn't help them to
Abdul Carter looked like the best of the lottery picks. Abdul Carter.
Who did? Oh, yeah. Yeah. Which we kind of all could have guessed. Cam Ward honestly had like a pretty solid performance, but like the Titans.
I'll be honest, I haven't seen a snap of the Titans game. I've consumed more Brian Callahan content than anything else. I am locked the hell into Brian Callahan press conferences, dude. It has never looked more over.
Enjoy them while you can.
It has never looked more over.
Yeah, I agree. Meanwhile, the Colts somehow look good. But to get back on track, to go back to underwhelming performances, I brought up Cam Little only because, as you brought up in your post-game article, like he did go 4 for 4 on field goals, including at least 1, if not 2, from over 50 yards. That he had a 52-yarder to essentially end the first half and get some points on the board. But he did have 2 penalties on kickoffs, which certainly does not help. The penalties put the Panthers offense on the 35-yard line.
Against a good offense, that could have put him in trouble.
Exactly. And so just in terms of not necessarily a bad performance, but not a great one and underwhelming. I was also a little bit underwhelmed by Eric Armstead. I guess especially with Mason Smith being a healthy scratch for this game, I was a little bit hopeful that Armstead would come back a little bit rejuvenated and look pretty fresh, considering he kind of got like Veterans Day rest for it felt like the entire offseason. And I think he actually did post like pretty decent metrics. He had like at least 1 pass rush win and like a okay pass rush win rate for a defensive tackle. But just when I was watching the All-22, like I just felt like I just didn't notice him a single time.
I felt like when I went back and watched it, like he was moderatively disruptive, but as disruptive as like I think people imagine, like in their grand plan of the defense, definitely not. I think if you're talking underwhelming, like we talked about him, but you probably have to throw Trevor Lawrence in there also.
Yeah, no, that's definitely fair. And to go back to your point about the offensive line, like certainly Walker Little and Anton Harrison looks great as run blockers. And I was just impressed by the whole unit. I mean, you already kind of shouted out the free agent.
It looks much better than
McCarry, but yeah, which again, like I don't know either, like why that is. Like I don't know what coaching tips are giving them, or like how much of it is like just because of the scheme and the plays that they're running. How much of it is just like confidence and kind of like based on their mentals. But yeah, I don't know. The whole unit looked good, which is especially notable because it's the first game that they all played together. Like cohesiveness is such a big thing for this offensive line unit because like they got to pass rush, they got to pass off like stunts by the defensive line. They got to be aware of like not just who's coming in terms of the defenders, but also like kind of where the fellow offensive linemen are. They very much so need to play in tandem, and really like kind of the same thing for the secondary. Like I was really impressed by just how cohesive the secondary looked. I feel like there were so many communication errors, especially in the back end, like with the safety unit last year. The Jaguar safeties were the worst ranked safety unit in terms of PFF coverage grade last year, and the Jags allowed the most passing yards in the league and the most explosive passing plays in the league. But they looked so much better today. I feel like, or on Sunday, I feel like the only times that the Panthers were really able to generate explosives was just because like Ted McMillan is a really good football player, and that's pretty much it. And sometimes you just kind of have to tip the hat, and so that's definitely something I was pleasantly surprised by. Was just kind of like the cohesiveness of the secondary and the offensive line. So shout out to Jacksonville's position coaches.
It felt like
there.
the only big plays the defense gave up were like self-inflicted as opposed to the offense just being better on them. And I was like, the scrambles, there were like 2 third downs where Tet got the first down T-Mac. My apologies. Where he got the first down because like they played super soft coverage, like they did like in that Steelers pre. Like Travis Hunter's first rep at corner, he lined up like 10 yards off the ball from him on like an 8-yard 3rd and 8. He's got like a super easy completion, and then the Jarian pass interference. I think other than that, the defense, really stood out and played well, especially the secondary.
All right, John. I lost track of questions, I think, but this will be counting is hard. We're words people.
You have a list of them, correct?
Yeah, but they're all. I didn't break them up enough. But we've already gone 30 minutes, so this will be my last question for you. Just like, what are you looking forward to this coming Sunday as the Jaguars travel to Paycor Stadium to take on the Bengals, which have been a little bit of like a bad luck team for the Jaguars since Trevor Lawrence had a bad injury on Monday Night Football, and then it was obviously the last game of Urban Meyer's tenure in 2022. So what are you looking forward to in Week 2? Just like, what's a matchup you want to see, a storyline you're looking forward to unfolding?
It wasn't the last game of his tenure. He coached like 8 more games after that, but it might as well have been the last.
Oh, you're so right. Yeah, no.
Can't remember what movie. And my phone just blowing up, and I'm like, I gotta look at this. And I look, and it's just like 6 different people texting me the video of it. And that next day press conference with somebody asking him if his marriage will survive it. That was a time. Yeah, between Urban's Chop House, I think that was the name of the restaurant or something like that, and came in Nebraska, and
right.
The Trevor injury, the last game, definitely has been a team where they have definitely had some pretty down moments against. Thing is, I think Trevor Lawrence has played pretty good against the Bengals, like in both of those games. I think that this is still a Bengals defense that isn't any good. I know they only gave up 13 points to the Cleveland Browns, but the Browns are probably the worst, like, in my opinion. I don't know. I'd say the Titans are probably worse than them. The Dolphins are worse than them this year. The Giants are close-ish, but I mean the Browns are a bottom 5 roster. To me, they have a decrepit quarterback, and the Bengals are like letting Joe Flacco like make plays out of structure. So definitely, not saying it's a get right game for the offense, but I think you would hope to see more from the passing game this week. I think that's the biggest thing. You have to see the passing game take a step. To me, you have to see Trevor, iron out that inconsistency. I mean, because that game kind of summed up Trevor. He had some S-tier throws. I mean, he had one, I think it was to Brendan Strange, where it was like between like a triangle of defenders, over the middle of the field. That was a very impressive throw. And then he went like a whole quarter where it felt like he couldn't complete a pass, in the third quarter. So it felt like a very Trevor game. I think you got to see the passing game become more consistent this week. That's the big thing to watch, I think. I'm interested to watch them against, Shamar Stewart. Did you see like his like metrics and stuff from? He was like the 5th or 6th like highest graded like edge defender for the week. He had a good game against Cleveland. They obviously have Trey Hendrickson, so I'm interested to see the offensive tackles against them. And then, I know the Bengals offense sucked against Cleveland. I think Cleveland, they obviously have the best defender, probably the best non-quarterback in the entire NFL, and Myles Garrett, one of the best players of my entire lifetime. So obviously the Bengals were never going to protect against him. Mason Graham also played, and I think add Jim Schwartz into the equation, and the Browns probably a bad matchup for the Bengals. I think just going from Chicken Little at quarterback to now playing Joe Burrow, I think that will be a good test for the defense to see just how improved this defense is. Because you can't take anything away from them. You play who's on the schedule. But I do still have to wonder, is this defense good or is this defense just improved and Bryce Young is just truly unequivocally that inept at quarterback? I'm not sure the answer to that, and I think we'll find out a little bit more this week.
Yeah, that's easily the thing I'm looking forward to most on Sunday. Like, you definitely brought good points about the offense that are certainly important, but what, like, especially like just how the defense plays against Joe Burrow in general. But specifically, what I'm looking for is like how he plays or how the Jaguars blitz him, and like whether they actually send out like a decent amount of like kind of all out blitzes like they did against Bryce Young, or if they kind of like bring that back, reel that back in a little bit, and they really only blitz on like simulated pressures, which is still usually only rushing 4 people and trying to get as many bodies in coverage as they can, is probably the way to go, because Burrow is like in that class of quarterbacks for sure that is like you just don't blitz against them, because if there's like a numbers disadvantage in terms of like pass catchers versus pass defenders, then like he's one of those quarterbacks that's going to win almost every time. And so I don't know exactly why he's so bad against the Browns. Like, I think the Browns defense is like that's easily like the worst opponent in terms of like his stats against any team. And so like obviously Myles Garrett is a big part of that, but Jim Schwartz kind of has him dialed. So I'm interested to see just like what Campanelli's game plan is and how aggressive he is against Burrow as opposed to against Bryce Young. And because I like Bryce Young, honestly, like there's certainly a few plays where like he got sacked once or twice, and like there was a big Jordan Lewis hit that kind of caused a incompletion. But like when he was able to get the ball out, he was actually like pretty similar in terms of efficiency for like being blitzed versus not being blitzed. He had a similar completion percentage, yards per attempt, and his passer rating was actually a lot higher when he was blitzed, just because the 2 interceptions he threw came on non-blitzes. And so like I think that like the Jaguars' blitzes were like more cool to see than they were actually like productive. Or, like,
you're saying they were performatively blitzing. I mean, they
a little bit.
They've started like the Panthers got like the 4 first third downs. It definitely took them settling in. I agree with you. The funniest quote I heard week 1 was Bill Cowher on CBS pregame saying he thinks Travis Hunter is going to shadow Jamar Chase.
Well, that's why we're here. It's always good to consume local media. Make sure to consume John's work. John, if you want to offer any kind of like score prediction or just who's going to win or lose, and then let the people know where they can find you.
Jaguars 23, Bengals 21. Yeah,
I like that. Those are some sound numbers right there.
I think the passing game will still be touch and go, but I don't know. I think at the very least, for as much as I still need to see more from the back 7, I like the Jaguars front 4 against the Bengals offensive line.
True. I'm going to go Jaguars 31, Bengals 24. Yeah. I feel like it's just like, even if the passing game doesn't necessarily start clicking in week 2, just as we talked about earlier, like Liam Cohen has the goods, and I think that the Bengals defense does not. Like, I think they're going to be a bottom 3 unit in the league this year, and so like I don't think the Jags should really have too much difficulty putting points up on the board. And then I figure that the Bengals will bounce back a little bit in terms of their offensive output compared to week 1 and be able to keep it close. But I don't know. I'm probably drinking the teal Kool-Aid a little bit too much after a win over the lowly Panthers. But I don't know. I'm kind of similar to you. Like, Joe Burrow is a good quarterback, absolutely, but I don't get as excited over him as a lot of other folks.
He doesn't make you want to put on a leather jacket and watch 1980s Brat Pack movies and put your fist up in the air. No. Right.
Not quite.
Suit yourself. I think it's pretty freaking epic, Gus.
All right, John. Epic is the perfect word to describe it. That'll do it for episode 1 of the Duval 22 podcast.
Yeah.
I feel like I might have said Duval rundown at the top of the show.
Yeah, you got to do a claw.
There you go. Get the claw in there. The claw. That'll be next time. I'll do the drum roll and the claw. But you can find John's work at _John_Shipley on Twitter, right?
Sure.
It's still the same underscore nonsense.
Sure is.
Or is it John _?
I advise
Shipley
none of you to
underscore?
tweet at me, but it sure is.
And Jaguars on SI. si.com/Jaguars, whatever. You guys know John. You guys know where to find him. Appreciate you as always, my friend. Looking forward to talking to you sometime in the next few weeks.
Heck
We'll
yeah,
have you back.
I'll be here. I appreciate it, Gus. Always love talking some ball with you, and I am a proud subscriber to Duval22. I've loved the content so far, and anybody who's ever consumed my content, I think you should know how high I hold Gus in esteem. There's nobody in the Jags media sphere who I think more of and who I think does better work. So go ahead and shoot him a follow.
Appreciate that, John. I certainly feel the same way about you. I guess I should plug my own stuff, though, because this is going to be a free podcast, and the vast majority of podcasts will be free. But I've got a paywalled website, duval22.com, where you can get just in-depth analysis, blending film, data, quotes, whatever, you name it. Just trying to provide a deeper level of analysis that's typically provided, not necessarily even just in like the Jaguars local media sphere, but just in like reporting circles in general, trying to get into the nitty gritty. So check out duval22.com. Check out John's work. Until next time, until I figure out how to talk again, we'll be back soon with another podcast, but appreciate everyone for watching and listening. Take care.